In this week's episode of Tipping the Scales.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael Lennox.
And I'm Joe Tumanero.
And this is Tipping the Scales, a podcast where we will argue about anything and everything, but mostly just nonsense. This episode, our topic of discussion is aliens.
Just a couple of days ago, I came across an article that was talking about the U.S. Navy having footage of a UFO that was actually caught in 2015. U.S. Navy pilots were in the air, two of them, when they saw a pill-shaped, unidentified flying object
Okay.
that was moving at incredible speeds against the wind, and also having low as well as high altitudes and changing directions very quickly. All of this is caught on footage in 2015 that was actually declassified and released and made public by New York Times in 2017. Now, that is my first bit of evidence showing that aliens do in fact exist.
I have a few questions. First is, so what is your definition of alien life? Because if we're going to argue that there's life on and like other planets, that's just a fact. Like they already found some moss on Mars or some like amoebas or something like that.
My definition is I'm not talking about like single-celled, microscopic organisms that may or may not exist. I am talking about some form of, intelligent life. Could be like, just an animal, something like that is not from Earth.
So my next question is, did you attend the Area 51 raid to clap alien cheeks?
I did not.
Well, why? So why couldn't this just be human technology? Why couldn't humans have just made these aircrafts? And I feel like that's taking away credit from like humans. Like, couldn't humans do that? Maybe it doesn't have to be like a little gray man on a different planet that has a light up finger and is called ET. Like,
Well, now you're just bringing up all the stigmas attached to it. You don't actually, I never suggested we have, aliens out there with light up fingers, or that they're gray, or that they have, egg shaped heads with black eyes. We've got the universe, which is estimated to be 93 billion light years in diameter. There's 50 billion planets in the Milky Way, with 500 million, at least 500 million of them being habitable. And that's just in our own galaxy. Okay, then we talk about the universe, and, how could you say that that aliens do not exist? There are like 40 billion habitable planets within the universe. So how could you say that aliens couldn't exist? And since you are saying that, take that even further. If aliens don't exist and we're the only things that do exist, we are one planet in like billions and billions and billions that happens to have life. That seems pretty unlikely.
Okay, so let's work with your probability analysis, which is essentially what you were alluding to. Was there are 50 billion or something like that habitable planets in the universe? What's the likelihood that any one of those planets would have already found us by, like, the inhabitants would have already found us by now? If there was intelligent life, somebody would be smart enough to recognize intelligent life on another planet. I would say the likelihood that there are aliens is the same likelihood that there are mermaids in the ocean.
Well, see, now there's the problem, is that now you're bringing up mythical creatures.
Well, I feel like aliens are mythical creatures. Honestly, it's more likely that vampires exist than aliens.
Vampires, really? Blood-sucking undead. I mean, it seems way more likely that aliens would exist than a vampire would.
So
because,
so if we're dealing in probabilities, right? So then how could you tell me that it's likely that aliens exist, but not on any one of the habitable planets that you just quoted to me that a vampire race exists, or that werewolves exist, or mermaids, leprechauns, ghosts?
Okay, so let me take your insanity and let's fan it out a little bit more. All right, so if you're willing to believe that there's vampire aliens that have super strength out there and super speed, are you also willing to believe that it's quite possible that, you know, some of these aliens maybe can draw from power within them and, you know, shoot out blasts from their hands?
Are we talking about Dragon Ball Z?
We are talking about Dragon Ball Z. Do they have powers where the basis of their energy comes from Kai?
Look, all I'm saying is you gave me a figure about how many habitable planets there are, and I can't argue that those don't exist. But what I can do is say, if there's life on other planets, then it maybe isn't bound by our rules. Maybe it can run 400 miles an hour. Maybe it can lift up a semi-truck. Maybe it can shoot blasts of energy after saying Kamehameha.
Yeah, absolutely.